welcome back to the Craft Castle. My name is Ashley, and do you love this off the mat floral canvas that I made? This thing right here is absolutely so beautiful, and it is using all new colors of cardstock found in my cardstock warehouse. However, did you hear what I said that this right here is an off the mat project? That's right, this canvas right here is 20 inches long, making this project an off the mat project because I only use 12-inch cardstock. Now in today's video, I'm going to give you the very basics on how to create an off the mat project. The reason why I'm going to give you the basics is because I just want to give you a really good foundation on how we make off the mat projects. Once we have a very good foundation on how to make these types of projects, in a later video, I'm going to teach you how to make this gigantic NV character from Inside Out 2. This girl right here is so large and so cute, and she is off the mat. So what you want to do today is join me in making this off the mat large floral canvas, and I'm going to give you the very basics on how to make off the mat projects so that you know and have a very good foundation for what's coming up next on my channel. Now the beauty of this project is you don't have to just do the letter S. I'm going to show you how to make the off the mat project for any letter or number that you want to create. All right, y'all, are you ready to get started? Let's go. Now, the very first thing you want to do is open up a blank window in Cricut Design Space, and then you just want to press New Project. The very first thing we want to do is add in the letter that we are going to be using today for our project. So you want to come over here into Text, and then you just want to add in the letter that you're going to be using. For me, since I am going with the summer vibe, I am just going to do a capital S and then click out of that. And I just want to make this bigger just so I can show you what I'm doing. Now what I'm going to do is change over my font. So I'm going to come over here into font and I'm going to click this box right here. This new box is going to pop up, and just to let you know, you can move it around. So if it's blocking your way, you can move it out of the way. Now all you want to do is pick the font that you want your final letter to look like. I would suggest for this project to use a nice, big, thick, bold font, because the bolder the font, the bolder your letter is going to be, and you're going to be able to put more flowers inside the letter if you choose a nice, big, bold font. I will have to tell you that picking a font for any project is the hardest part every single time. There are so many options to choose from. It is so hard to just pick one font. Okay, so this font is the one that I'm going to use today. It's nice, big, bold, thick. I like it. Okay, I'm going to click out of that. So now what I want to do is change the base color of my letter. Generally, what I like to do is match my base layer to the other colors that I'm going to be using for my project. However, today what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to change my base layer to match the backer of what I'm affixing my letter to. It is going to be white, so I'm going to change this over to white and then click out of that. Now here's the problem, is that the canvas that I'm going to be using is 20 inches in length. However, if I only do a 12-inch cutout, because that's how large my cardstock is, I'm going to have a 12-inch letter S that is going to be placed on a 20-inch canvas, and it's not going to look very proportioned. It's going to be very small. So what I'm going to do is off the mat project today, and I'm going to turn this 6-inch, right now it's 6 inches. I want my finished floral letter to be a total of 18 inches. So I'm going to change this over to 18 inches, and we're going to start zooming out. Now I don't have 18-inch cardstock in my cardstock warehouse. So what I need to do is I need to break this letter up into 2 different pieces so I can actually cut it out on my cardstock. So what I need to do is come over here into shapes, and I'm going to insert a square. Okay, now with this square, what you want to do is change it over to 11.5 inches. Okay, the reason why we changed it over to 11.5 instead of 12 inches is because technically the Cricuts can't cut 12 inches on a 12-inch cutting mat. They have a margin. So you want to change this over to 11.5. Okay, now with my box, what I want to do is I'm going to drag this and I'm going to put it over my letter S. Now to make this easy on yourself, we only want to make this 2 pieces, because if you were to do it like this and then we would continue on with our steps, you'd end up having 1, 2, 3 pieces. And technically we really truly only need 2 pieces for the letter S. So you just want to make sure that your box is covering a full section of your letter S. So when we go to the next step, all we're going to have is 2 pieces that we're going to need to cut out in the white. Now, once you have your box covering a good portion of your letter S, just like I have on the screen, you want to select both pieces, come down here and press slice. Now what you want to do is come over here to the layers box. We want to select this one right here and just press delete. Then we want to select this darker S, the top portion of the S, and delete that. So what you're going to be left with is 2 pieces. That is perfect, because we're going to be able to cut these out on a 12-inch mat with 12-inch cardstock. The seam that you see here is going to be covered when we go and layer in the cardstock flowers later during assembly. Now the next and fun thing is that we are going to add in the flowers that we're going to be using for this project. Now you can do it all within Cricut Design Space if you wanted to, just coming over here into images and searching up flowers, and you would be able to add in all the flowers that you wanted to use. However, for me, what I'm going to do is I am going to use a summary floral design that I actually created for Makers Gonna Learn website. Now you are going to need a membership in order to download this file, but Makers Gonna Learn only is $1 for their trial. So if you wanted to create the same exact letters as me, you're going to want to just sign up for their starter membership. Now these are the flowers that I'm going to be using for this project. So all I'm going to do is press download, going back over into Cricut Design Space, and I'm just going to press upload and then upload image. I'm going to find the downloaded file that I got off of the Makers Gonna Learn website, and I'm going to drag and drop it into Cricut Design Space. And there's the file that I created for Makers Gonna Learn. Then you just want to press continue. And if you wanted to, you could rename this, but you could also just press upload. And there is our file. Isn't it so cute? Okay, now what I'm going to do is right click and press ungroup. Now for this project, I want to make multiple flowers using the flowers that I've created for Makers Gonna Learn. So I'm actually not going to be using any of the vines, so I'm going to delete that. Now I have 12 different colors of neons that I'm going to be using for my summary letter S. So I'm actually just going to take these 4 flowers and I'm going to copy and paste. And I want 12 of these flowers. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to select my flowers and I want to recolor these to the colors that I want to use. For this hibiscus, I'm going to do it hot pink, and I'm going to drag this over, and I just want to resize these so they're going to fit nice and cute inside of our letter. Working on the next one, I'm not going to be using any white. I'm going to be doing some really fun color. Let's do blue. And just make this smaller and resize this into our letter. Okay, for this one, I'm going to make this orange. We'll change lime green. Okay, so this definitely looks really weird right now, but you just need to trust the process. Now that I've recolored all of my flowers to the colors of cardstock that I'm going to be using, and I've placed it inside my letter, you can see that I have a long ways to go. So what I'm going to do is selecting my white letter, and I'm just going to bring it over here. I'm going to select these and I'm going to copy and paste. Now what I'm going to do is just bring these back over, put them back onto my letter, and I'm just going to rearrange these onto my white cutout. You can resize these if you wanted to, or you can keep them all the same size. You may not even use all of these letters, but you definitely want to cut out more flowers than you think you're going to need, because the last thing you want to do is think that you're done cutting and then have to go back to cut because you didn't cut enough flowers. So I definitely like the look of this. So now what you want to do is press save, and you want to save your work. Then you just want to press make. And you are going to want to pull all your cardstock that you're going to need for this project. Now that we have the cardstock pulled, what you want to do is set up your mats to the order of which you are going to use your cardstock. So for me, I have 2 mats of white cardstock. So I have my 2 mats. And then I have 2 oranges. So I'm just going to pull out my 2 oranges. And then I have my 2 yellows. We got 2 greens, 2 blues, 2 purples, and 2 pinks. Then what I like to do is I like to take my stack and put it underneath my Cricut that I'm using today. Then what I'm going to do is making sure I'm on mat 1. I'm going to use 1 Cricut mat, and I'm going to load in my first cardstock that I'm going to be using. So for me, it's going to be the plain white cardstock. I'm going to load that up into my Cricut. For plain cardstock, I use the cardstock mode, 80 pound, and then I just press the fast cut mode and press the blinking C button. Now, I always like to have busy hands, so I always like to have another mat. I am going to get my next sheet of cardstock, and I'm going to put that onto my second mat. Because now that this is cutting, I'm going to be able to eject my mat, switch it out for another mat, and press the blinking C button, and then just keep moving along, wasting no time. I find that I like to be more efficient when it comes to cutting on your Cricut, because if you're only using 1 mat, you're going to tend to have wasted time, because 1 mat takes you time to cut and then time to take it off your mat and switch things around. It's just more time consuming. You always want to make sure though that if you're going from glitter cardstock to plain cardstock, to change your settings. So for glitter cardstock, I like using the cardstock plus mode, making sure it's on the fast cut mode, and just press that blinking C button. Okay, then you just want to keep repeating the process until you've ran out of cardstock underneath your Cricut. When you have all your cardstock glued, what you want to start doing is rolling your cardstock. I personally love taking a piece of foam and a couple of my fondant rolling tools and roll your cardstock to where you go from flat pieces of cardstock to cardstock that is nice and has dimension and looks more like a real flower. How you do that is you're going to take 1 piece of cardstock and some fondant rolling tools. I have multiple different sizes here, but I really gone ahead and already rolled a bunch of these flowers, and I'm just using the 2 largest size for this mostly. And all I do is I just give it a little bit of movement. When you have your cardstock rolled, I'm going to take some silicone glue. You could do cardstock glue for this project too. I just grabbed the first bottle that I saw, which was my clear silicone glue, and I'm just going to add a bit to the middle and then place that into my flower, staggering them a little bit to where you can't see the backs on them. They don't lay perfectly flat. Then I am going to take my little centers of my flowers and also glue them onto my flowers. Okay, now what you want to do is keep rolling and gluing your flowers. I suggest doing all of the rolling right now, so when we go to assemble this, you're not having to stop and redo and readjust things, because everything is nice glued and rolled together. Now, assembly for this letter is actually fairly easy. The very first thing you want to do is make sure and have your hot glue gun on piping hot. Then what you want to do is set aside your canvas or whatever it is that you're going to be putting your letter on. And what we want is a little bit of clear Scotch tape. Then what you want to do is put your 2 pieces of your letter together, squishing them pretty tightly. You don't want to overlap them, just put the ends together. Then you want to take your Scotch tape and you want to put that over the top of both pieces, pretty much taping them together. You want to make sure that it's nice and tight while you do this, but then you want to put Scotch tape down the entire length of your letters. Then what I'm going to do, just for added stability, it's really not that necessary if you're going to be putting on something like a canvas, but I'm going to do it anyways. So I'm going to flip this over and I'm going to put the tape on the back side of the seam. So essentially, if you're doing like a large character cutout, you would be doing the same exact steps. just taping up the seams as tight as possible. Okay, now what I want to do is I actually want to glue my backer down to my canvas now, just so I make sure and have this nice and centered on my canvas. So I'm going to take the wrapping off of here and put this on my canvas. Okay, I'm going to use a fabric tape measure. You can use any ruler for this, but you just want to make sure that everything is nice and centered. Okay, this looks pretty straight to me. I have it nice and centered onto my canvas. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put my hand down, kind of pressing on the piece of paper, and I'm going to lift this up, and I am going to put hot glue down on the piece of paper. I don't want to do it on the canvas because I want to make sure that I don't put any hot glue on the canvas, because hot glue technically doesn't dry clear. It actually tends to yellow over time. So just making sure that it doesn't touch your canvas so you don't have a yellow stain later. And then we're going to just glue this onto our canvas. It is okay if you have ripples in your paper because we are going to cover it up with our flowers, so it won't be that big of an issue. Then I'm just going to add more glue on the rest of the back and just lay this down. Now, if you wanted to, what you could do is just go back in and then add more glue around the edges if you've missed some spots. And hot glue is notorious for leaving those little strings, so you just want to make sure and wipe them away. Now that we have it glued down, can you see the vision of what I'm going for? It's going to turn out absolutely amazing. Now what I'm going to do is I am going to take these flowers and I'm just going to dry fit them. I kind of want to make sure that like I don't have the same purple right next to each other. So I'm just going to sporadically throw them around and we're just going to fill up the letter. Okay, so this is cute. I like the look of this. Right now I have a lot of leftovers right here. That is okay. And I have a good amount of like the plain cardstock and the glitter cardstock. So we're going to be able to manipulate this to make it look really good. But I like that right now I'm looking at my letter and it's in the shape, but also that I don't have like-minded colors all bunched together because I want to make sure that this is like in the entirety doesn't have like a pattern or that too many of the same light colors are connected. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I am going to just take one flower and put a little bit of glue on the back of my flower, and I'm going to put this in about the spot where I want it to go, and I'm going to let that dry. Let me go up here and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to put some glue on my flower and I'm just going to press this down. Okay, now that I'm letting this dry, I'm going to come down here and I'm going to add in my next flower. I'm kind of curling the pieces, my petals, but also now that I'm done doing that, what I'm going to do is start like maneuvering my petals around a little bit to where they're going to just lay on top of each other. This is why you wanted to cut more flowers out than you thought you were going to need, just so we can squish them in together so we don't have a lot of breathing room behind our letter. And this is why we didn't lay out all the flowers, because when we start gluing these down, what's going to end up happening is we're going to have extra room for places. We're going to be able to fill it in with the smaller other flowers that we have left over. And then now what I can do is I can bend my paper and my flowers in different directions, kind of making it look more realistic. Okay, I'm going to go back up here doing the same thing. I'm just going to curl my flower just a little bit. When they dry, they tend to flatten out a little bit. A little bit of hot glue, and we're going to make sure this is nice and tight into our letter. Okay, so now what I'm going to do with the rest of the flowers is I'm going to build some more dimension. So like there is an empty hole that's right here. I'm going to put this flower right there. I am going to douse this flower in a fair enough hot glue, and I'm going to press it down onto my other paper flowers, making sure that there is a bond on my other layer, my back layer. There is a hole right here, so I'm going to do the same thing with a different flower, doing the same steps. Okay, you definitely want to make sure that all of this is dry before you start doing anything more to it. But now that we have glued it all down, what you could do now is just go in and really bend the flowers and give it a little bit more movement, because in nature, real flowers, although they're probably not this neon color, They do have more movement. Not everything is the same. So going in and giving your flowers more depth is definitely something that you could do. I think we did a phenomenal job moving the flowers and creating dimension when we rolled them earlier. So this is definitely optional, but if you find that your flowers are just falling and looking a little flat, you can definitely go back in with your fingers and roll the flowers a little bit more, creating a little bit more dimension. These hibiscus flowers turned out so stinking cute. I love how the neon just pops them. This letter turned out absolutely amazing, and it is crazy to think that we took flat paper and turned it into this 3D work of art only using cardstock. Isn't this absolutely amazing? The great part is I showed you the beginner steps of doing an off the mat project with the letter S. I can't wait to show you how to do a huge character on our next video. All right, my crafty friends, I need to know, did you find that this tutorial was super easy to follow? I sure hope the answer is yes, because what I'm really trying to do is give you some building blocks for off the mat projects so we can create big cutouts just like this. Okay, friends, you're gonna wanna make sure and check back with me because I'm gonna show you not only how to make your own Envy SVG, all for free, but then I'm also gonna show you how to turn this free SVG file into an off the mat project using a basic Cricut Explore Air 2. I hope to see you there.